Good evening. Happy Father's Day, gentlemen. In our second reading today from Paul, he gives us sort of the ultimate end and goal of life. And it should bring everything else into perspective for us. So just to do a little sort of prayerful musing this evening, have you ever really asked the question, I'm sure you have at some point in your life, what is your life all about and why are you here? Like really taking the time to consider it. God brought you into existence out of nothing, and here we are. There was a time that you didn't exist. And there is a time coming, sooner than we think, when we will not be here. We're born. If you really think about it, in light of our eternal existence, we live an incredibly short time on the earth, and then we die. And then once we die, that's it. No second chances, no redos. We're gone. And life moves on. And in a very short while, we are completely forgotten. The work we did, the families we raised, even the lives we touched. Gone. I don't even know who my great-great-great-grandfather was. What he did, or where he lived. And he died in the late 1800s. That's only 150 years ago. And his own great-great-grandson knows nothing about him. Wildly uplifting Sunday message. But seriously, this is important stuff. Because we have to get it right as everything is on the line. And as our scriptures say today, the outcome is eternal, and it is based upon the choices that we make in this little blip of time that we have on this earth. It's really almost mind-boggling when you think about what you are living every day of your life is determining your forever. So this little blip that we find to be so unbelievably important is determining the real importance that's coming next. And so choices, everyone, are really, really important because they really, really matter, because they make us into something. And whatever we become in this little blip of time, we'll either want to be with God when we die, or we'll reject God in heaven altogether. All God is saying is that He is respectful of our free choice, and He is going to give you what you want. And what we want is witnessed to by our choices. I think I've told you the story before about the priest I talked to. He's passed away now, but he had actually died about 12 years into his priesthood in a car crash, and they brought him back. Stephen Shire was his name. You get online, he was on EWTN with Mother Angelica, and he talks all about it. He was judged to hell. And he said, I talked to him actually in person. He died 2 weeks later, ironically. But he said the most striking part about the judgment is that the Lord was just pointing out what He wanted. And there was no rebuttal, right? Like we have to say, but what I really meant. He's like, absolutely not. You are faced with your choice and exactly what you wanted, and there is no question about it. All you can say is, no, that's exactly right, Lord. He said he wasn't bothered by it. It was just true. And this is exactly what Paul is saying in our second reading. Hear it again. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ. That means it's really mind-blowing when you think about it, right? Jesus is God, but He's also like a human body. So somehow billions and billions and billions and billions of people are coming before Him for their own particular judgment every single day as they die. We must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ so that each may receive his recompense, right? What's due to you based upon what you chose, according to what he did in the body, whether good or evil. It's also what Jesus is talking about in these parables, right? The kingdom of God is seeded through the sacraments by him, who is him, into the soul, and it can either grow or we can kill it. And this isn't some mystery. We see this all the time with people, right? So we got to go back to this original question, because I'm going to get into relationships there shortly. But what is our ultimate end goal of life? Like, we went around the church and we looked at your life. Like, what is the most important thing? And it's where we spend a lot of the times our time and our treasure, right? What do you talk about the most? Is it Jesus? Because Paul is saying it's simply that. Jesus is the seed of the kingdom, and Jesus is all we're talking about in our relationship with him. And that relationship is determined by our choices, like any other human relationship, and it's like any other love relationship because he's a human, even though he's God. So we want to see it through that prism. And relationships, everybody, are either getting better or they're getting worse in our life. Right? Married people, and I'm not talking about huge strides, it's over years usually, but you are either moving further apart or you are moving closer together, and that is all based upon your choice for each other. And that's every other relationship in our life too, right? As it is with Jesus. Now, there are a million distractions that presently exist in the world that make this a very challenging task, because they are all begging for a relationship with you. And so let's just be frankly honest, right? When was the last time you really considered your life in this way? Like, what do you love the most? There's a lot of things to love. As we gear on up, slide into the synod and the election this coming fall, it's going to be a wild one. Most people aren't even going to be thinking about Christ because some party or person is here to save the country, and it's all about that. No, it's not. It's about him, and that's it. And nobody's come to him to ask him for anything. It's all about what this Holy Father or the next synod or this. That's all about that. No, it's really not. All it's about is your relationship with Jesus. And when you get that, talking about that with people, it doesn't really exist a lot of the times. And if it does, it's very quadranted. My relationship with Jesus is I fill the box X, Y, Z, and therefore I'm good. Try that in your family sometime. So again, when was the last time you thought about it? Last week? Last month? Last year? Last 10 years? Maybe never? Because we just take him for granted as if he's always supposed to be there and he's always going to be there, and because he is going to be there, I don't really need to pay much attention to that relationship or love him like other things in my life because he's just going to be there. We do that sometimes in marriage, right? Taking for granted the spouse. Well, they have to love me, so I'm not going to put in the work. Having a relationship with Jesus is as much work as anything else, trust me. I wonder about my own sometimes. We are way more concerned with the day that's in front of us than the eternity that's coming. However, 1 trillion years into your eternal existence, heaven or hell, do you think you're even going to remember your life? You don't even remember what you had for breakfast 3 days ago, what you got for Christmas 5 years ago, or what your desires were 15 years ago, because all of it's changed. But it was so unbelievably important in the time, just like they are now. So let's take it just a little bit deeper into the scriptures because I just want to offer you a few considerations. It's sort of a prism to see this question through. The first is just the brutal reality about time. And we don't think about it enough. Now, I mention this at almost every single funeral that I give because it's very fitting in the moment. But there is the lie of life. I think it's the supreme lie of life. And we believe it when we're little, that time takes a long time. Our life is a long time because the way that we're judging time when we're little, because we're taking in so much information, is way different than the reality of what it actually is, which we experience as we age. And I can remember my mom. She'd always be like, "Oh, when you were 3." And I was like, that was like a lifetime ago. Oh, it was just like yesterday. Never said the same thing about my adult life. I don't know what that says about me. It's something about being 3. I reached my peak. And it hit me one day that for her, it was just yesterday because she was an adult. But for me, it was like 3 to 4, 4 to 6. Boom, high school, college. And then I woke up one day and I looked in the mirror and I was 45 and I was like, where did it all go? Because I believed the lie. And if you believe that lie, you forget about the real length of time that's coming in the next life. This is just a speck of existence. And as you probably heard me say before, it's the deal that Jesus makes with all of us. If we will give him this little speck of time, he'll give us forever. Sounds pretty fair to me. Second, the Carthusians, which is probably like the most serious order on earth, they rarely talk to each other. They spend most of their life in a cell silent. But when they do see each other, one of the main things they will say to each other is this: remember your death. Remember your death. Because if you put yourself on your deathbed, which is a good thing to do in your prayer, when we begin to consider our eternal destiny from that point of view, which I've seen many people do, it sort of purifies what really matters in life. What changes would you make right now if you were on your deathbed? What do you wish you would be doing or would have done? What did you want to do and you didn't do? And with the fervor that you would make it on your deathbed or tell you dying, why didn't you do this? Or why didn't you stop doing that? Do it now. Or at least give it the good old college try. And the third is like it, it's the consideration of your judgment. Now this, at the general judgment, at the resurrection, right? Either rise to eternal life or eternal shame. Regardless, and I'm sure it's going to take some time, more than our lifetime, all of us, from Adam and Eve to the last soul to be born, is going to come before the entire assembly of humanity, the judgment seat of Christ, and all lives are going to be laid bare. Let's size it down. Got any volunteers tonight that want to come up here in front of everybody and tell us about every nook and cranny of your life? Virtues, sins, mistakes, transgressions. Or imagine if you got hauled up here and did that. Well, that's going to happen before everybody. Now, here is the secret. I say because that's the judgment. I'm the best. I don't know if there's any lawyers in here. But I'm the best defense attorney that you got. Mm-hmm. Come to me in my court, and I can get rid of all of that. And I'm not just going to get you forgiven. Christ through me is going to erase it from all eternity. So what you have confessed is not going to even be there. It dies with your body. And then what? Only the good, virtuous stuff about you is going to be remembered. That's not so bad. People are like, oh, confession is so hard. I'm like, confession? Imagine coming before the entire assembly of humanity and God with anything on your soul. You're going to look back and say, that confessional was the best friend that I ever had. And so remember the judgment. Again, what changes would you make now? Is it more service or any service to God and His church? Is it that good, holy, long overdue confession? Is it reconciliation with another? Gosh, is death the equalizer? And how many souls wish they would have mended up that relationship years before they ever got to the point that it was too late. Maybe a deeper prayer life. Going deeper in this relationship with Jesus, making Him the most important person and the most important personal relationship in your life. And we do that very easily. I mean, it's just starts by sticking around after Saturday Mass and having a little adoration. He's right here. Maybe it's leaving a sin behind, or at least trying to. Friends, whatever it is, we need to take this seriously because our forever depends on it. And right now, the world is just poo-pooing the thing to the sidelines, as if none of it matters at all. As we come to receive Jesus in Holy Communion this Sunday, call to mind Paul's words in our second reading and make them the compass of your life. See your future. Be your future. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each may receive recompense according to what they did in the body, whether good or evil.